Thank you to Chemtech EPC for providing us this opportunity to share our perspective. This is a topic that I've seen EPC companies being seized off over the 22 years and counting years of experience that I have. And it is something that my fellow speakers, Mr. Anand, Nilesh, Manish, have all spoken about advancements in the mode of execution and leveraging digital and analytics to drive success, right? But how does that translate into making the industry attractive for the XYZ generation, more specifically the YZ, because they represent the future of the future leaders of EPC organizations. So I have a very crisp presentation. I will run through the same. In terms of the topic at hand, it is how the XYZ generation can drive the future of the EPC industry. And the objective and intent of our commentary is around achieving an alignment between what EPC organizations are driving towards realizing success and laying the foundations of building blocks that will drive success, but also catering to the aspirations, the expectations of the generations that will come into our EPC workforce so that success is realized. EY has run a future of work study, and the same, in very simple terms, speaks to success being realized by organizations who align their business models and business aspirations with the operating model and the organizational constructs that exist to deliver the same. So I will spend the next maybe 15 minutes talking through how we see this play out in the context of the workforce. And I will start with a very interesting sidelight where we say for the first time in the execution that, or in history, we are seeing 4 generations of employees in the workplace, ranging from baby boomers to Generation Z. And this is a fairly esoteric mix where we believe it is important to understand the attributes of each generation in order to carve a proposition that is attractive and that contributes to the meaningful success of the industry. So if I were to just talk about attributes, we looked at core values, which are what does an individual truly believe in? How does he approach his workplace? What are his workplace ethics? How does he communicate in terms of his peers, his superiors, his subordinates? What does he or she like with reference to feedback? And lastly, a fairly interesting one, what are typical stereotypes associated with the respective generation? Now, once again, what I will be sharing is a summary view. It may be a bit of a generalization, but it does represent the distinction between generations that organizations need to solve for as they start positioning for success. So in terms of the baby boomer generation, we've spoken of those born between 46 and 64, right? In their 50s, but largely growing up in times of strife, the Vietnam War, the emergency, questioning authority, taking up certain causes to drive so, and also eventually, as they entered the professional domain, becoming ambitious and optimistic. The next generation to which I belong is Generation X, where there was a slightly better environment where we entered into the professional space. We had opportunities to explore various avenues for education, but also opportunities in the workplace. Have been relatively autonomous, seek a greater work-life balance, and have been, perceived as risk takers, but in some sense a wee bit cynical as well. This represents what I would call the middle to senior management profiles in the EPC industry, given the experience that we've had working with EPC cos on organizational dimensions, right? If I could toggle forward on Gen Y and Gen Z, so this is in the age brackets that we've spoken of, but there is a shift largely driven by an adoption and exposure to social media. being very focused on what next, being rather impatient and being very eager to learn. From a stereotypical perspective, job hoppers in a certain frame, right? And being very focused on work to live and enjoy the life experience. Gen Z are those who are just about entering the workforce now and have moved from being adopters of social media to being those who express a point of view. We've heard the promotion of Clubhouse, looking at Instagram as avenues where there is creativity, there is uniqueness of expression, there is individualism, and there is also the seeking of flexibility in terms of experiences. Feedback is sought to be bite-sized, and the intent is to be constantly connected. And a flip side of being constantly connected is being distracted, being very much focused on multitasking. So these are attributes that we've captured when we work back with organizations when they look at their workforce strategy. As I said, there may be some amount of generalization, but this is in some way a contrast across the X, Y, and Z generation that is present as far as our human capital base to target. If I were to take it forward, from the attribute emerges a certain working style, a set of expectations and motivations. And what we sought to do was to synthesize it because that is an important element as we take forward in terms of the deliberation on what will drive the future of the EPC industry. So if we were to look at the baby boomer and Gen X, it is, one could specify that as committed to extensive work hours, very much focused on achieving outcomes, fitting very well as business and functional leaders, imposing a certain leadership style, comfortable with technology developments, open to experimentation, clear with supervising and mentoring folks. So these are discrete attributes that we observed with regards to the working style, their modes of engagement. If we were to look at the Y and the Z generation, these are employees or individuals who have grown up with a significant tech orientation, right? They've probably grown up with mobiles. They've seen progression in communication technology with 5G now underway, the continuous connection, but also being very, very focused on sustainability, right? The reduce, reuse, recycle generation, as we call it, very conscious of climate change, interested in renewables, interested in decarbonization as themes. And then if you look at Z, along with those, also focused on entrepreneurial aspects, right? Where they see their peers as exploring various options, the gig economy coming into play, having a relatively casual approach, but also preferring to work in a very open culture and a flat organization. So you see the attributes, those playing out into working styles, and then the need for organizations to recognize that there is a diversity, but there is also the need to harmonize and build a strong relationship between the various generations that are present in our workforce. Not an easy task, but it is something that needs to be viewed as a strength and foster a culture where there is constructive engagement and there is the learning that can be passed between various tiers of the workforce, but also in an open and transparent environment. So we've spoken about attributes, we've spoken about working styles. Now I wanted to bring the industry context because my fellow speakers have spoken about the innovations, the enablers that are available in the context of driving future success, and how the same could be used to convert what could be seen as a challenge into a significant opportunity to reinventing the EPC industry as an industry of choice and also driving success going forward. So from a frame, we spoke of market dynamics and we tabled market dynamics as well as the disruptors at play, which the industry is currently seeing, and what potentially could be an industry response. We are clearly seeing the industry respond, but our lens is to say, how do we leverage the same in order to take it to the workforce and, in a way, co-opt them to drive success? So if, again, not belaboring the point uh, around market dynamics, we are seeing a tightening capex outlook, a demand for significant TCO competitiveness. So when I speak of TCO, it's total cost of ownership. Manish referred to the same when he spoke about the focus on delivering value to customers, right? There is a lens on decarbonization and the energy transition. So this is a reality which is in some way accelerating upon us. And I know there are speakers who are going to dwell upon it in the Chemtech sessions to follow. There is an enhanced requirement around ESG, which is environmental, social, and governance, right? So this is ensuring that sustainability dimensions are taken care of as we work back with our customers, greater focus on safety. There is an emphasis on innovation to deliver the TCO competitiveness. There is also an expectation for collaborative execution, right? It is around, are there gain share arrangements that could be considered through early participation in the life cycle? We have seen other industries leverage technology to drive supply chain efficiencies. Our sense is the EPC industry is a bit of a laggard, and there is significant efficiency to be had. Mr. Anand Sehna has also spoken about how the same could be, delivered. And lastly, there is no relent in the war for talent. And we are on that topic, both from the context of skilled labor and white collar, but also the need to manage and challenge changing workforce priorities. So this is what we are seeing from the external standpoint, A, from our customers, B, from those who provide us the resources to deliver. If we were to look at disruptors, it is simple. It is largely driven by A, the digital and analytics revolution that is upon us, which has brought in elements around collaboration, contactless sales, collaboration with our supply chain, Industry 4.0 levers where you provide real-time insight, predictive analytics, all that my fellow speakers have spoken of. But in addition to that, there is the focus on industrialization in construction, right, which is modularization, but driving standardization, but leveraging the same so that there is replicability, there are efficiencies to be had taken forward. And lastly, there are technology disruptions associated with some of the energy transition elements, but also in metallurgical sciences, right? So if we look at the market placing a demand and the disruptors at play, there is a response that we expect our industry to provide. And we are seeing early stages of the same, right? There is collaboration, there is integration in the supply chain, there is the drive towards industrializing construction, leveraging fabrication and various precast, pre-assembled techniques. Embedding sustainability, and we're seeing this probably more in the developed world and slowly coming into India with the ESG agenda, and then weaving digital and analytics into our DNA. So the fundamental message on this slide is these are challenges that the industry faces, but there is the opportunity to translate this into a proposition that is attractive for the XYZ generation in their respective positions to view the EPC industry as an industry of choice, but also leverage their predispositions to become significant contributors to success, co-opting all the themes that we have spoken of. The penultimate slide is talking about our future of work framework, where essentially our fundamental thesis is it is critical to align our operating model, where we speak of the business dimensions associated with our strategy, our purpose and values, our process technology, our organization construct, and our governance mechanisms, with that which an employee seeks, where he looks at what is the overall experience, what is the technology experience, what is the mindset with which I need to work, how will I be viewed in the context of talent, and how well aligned is it? What is the leadership perspective I have? What are teaming arrangements? What is the performance and rewards framework? But lastly, what is the physical environment in which I work? And taking all these into considerations and synthesizing the same is critical. And it allows us to answer 4 key imperatives. And this is what we believe are questions that organizations need to address in order to provide for success in engaging with a rapidly changing workforce and their predispositions. So the four themes are: one is alignment. So it is looking at aligning organizational and workforce capabilities to execute a strategy. And we spoke of strategy in the context of changing customer requirements. We spoke of strategy in the context of tools being available. We spoke about strategy in the context of addressing new market segments, but also being very conscious from a sustainability standpoint. Enablement is around learning agenda. It's around feedback, and it is also about adopting, very innovative practices. Motivate is self-explanatory, but how do you ensure that there is feedback, there are recognition mechanisms in the context of how various generations have come into the workforce and what they expect and what would enable them to be very enthused about working in the industry. And lastly, we had outpace. Outpace is a theme that we see come into play where newer generations are very, very keen to be challenged and be seen as delivering more than what is expected. They see themselves as overachievers. And therefore, how do you harness that perspective in order to capture the same? So it's how do you optimize, streamline the way we get work done in order to drive efficiency? So having laid out this frame in the context of future of work, probably adapted to the EPC environment, I'll close with the fundamental question, right? How can the XYZ generation and their preferences be co-opted into driving the future of the EPC industry? And our frame of reference is, when we speak of driving the future of the EPC industry, is to have a workforce that is committed and that is very aligned to drive the innovation, the enablers that are available with us, which once again our speakers have spoken of, in order to achieve the objectives that our customers have laid out for us. So this is a synthesis of what we see our clients execute. There are domains where we have supported our clients to weave this into their employee experiences in order to improve levels of engagement, but also provide for a more innovative and configurable learning experience, right? So if I speak of align, three themes, right? And this is by no means exhaustive, but one is the leverage of new age tools. This is something that the Y and Z generation, and I would say the X, Y, and Z generation is looking forward to. They like to adopt and be early adopters of technology. So a manifestation of the same in deploying techniques, technologies, and making that a core employee value proposition would be critical. It would enthuse those who are entering the workforce. A focus on cutting edge technology, and when I speak of technology here, it is in the context of innovation from a process standpoint, looking at clean fuels, green hydrogen, etc. But linked to sustainability, the entire decarbonization theme, because that is going to be a critical element for organizations to be rated as employers and for the employee workforce to be aligned and motivated to contribute going forward. From an enablement standpoint, this is very much around the learning agenda. So two aspects where we had self-paced learning and the ability for employees to make choices around what they would want to learn. We have MOOCs, we have Udemy, Coursera as options where employees could avail of these facilities, get certified, and in a way position themselves for future roles based on performance, but also on certification. There is social learning, and this is a very interesting construct that we are seeing at play, and we are leveraging. I'm sure the phrase WhatsApp University would be familiar to everyone in this forum, but the intent is to leverage this as a tool in order to provide more real-time knowledge sharing, and that provides for enhanced groupthink. Just to close out, motivation, and we spoke about open plan, transparent, flat structures. So having flexible working arrangements, a focus on wellness, mental health are areas that have provided for greater levels of engagement. We spoke about the gig economy, but the ability to provide agile career paths, the rotation of folks, across functions, which is a unique asset of the EPC industry, would be great. And then, instant recognition, because there is, in a way, the need for gratification in the constructive sense, and the ability to provide the same with tools such as thanks bots. And finally, challenge, right? How do we, in some way appeal to the desire to overachieve? So the first is hackathons. We've seen organizations set these up with as challenge sessions where, the time frame is crunched, but there is the desire, the intent to solve, and we've seen great success being delivered. There are collaboration platforms where, there are professional networks such as Yammer and Square, which can be used for deliberation. And lastly, accelerators. Once again, we've spoken of the same in prior sessions, but ensuring that the same are deployed to enable the workforce in order to contribute to the achievement of objectives. So I'll close with a statement around the industry is faced with change. There are expectations that the workforce has, that the incoming workforce and the potential leaders of tomorrow have, but reconfiguring the way we work and aligning and co-opting tools, enablers, and let's say discrete initiatives efficiently will enable the XYZ generation to be motivated and actively contribute in terms of driving the future of the EPC industry.